Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 157 based on novel. So let's start. Xiancheng, Herbalist Guild. Xiao Yan, who was forced to enter the medicine refining guild just because of the crowd outside the door, immediately attracted the attention of many people in the guild. These people have all kinds of eyes, or curiosity, or sympathy, or disdain, or disgust. Standing in the medicine refining guild, Xiao Yan glances around. At the moment, the place where Xiao Yan stands is a small courtyard, and the main gate of the medicine refining guild is still inside, which needs to walk more than 10 steps inward. Turned his head and looked at the crowded crowd outside the door. Although Xiao Yan wanted to go out, he thought again that he could only live here in a short time. He shook his head helplessly in his heart. Xiao Yan lifted his steps and walked towards the main gate of the Herbalist Guild. Since he came, he was bored anyway. He might as well go in and have a look. When Xiao Yan came to the front door, suddenly, a figure flashed from one side, blocking Xiao Yan's face, or blocking his way. Boy, this is the Guild of Medicine Refiners. It's not where people like you can enter. When we enter the yard, we didn't drive you out with kindness. It's the best of kindness and righteousness. Can you enter here? At the moment, standing in front of Xiao Yan is a middle-aged man. He looks quite strong and gives people. The reason why he shot Xiao Yan just now is just to take the opportunity to vent his anger, but unfortunately, he found the wrong person. When the big man retreated bitterly, Xiao Yan also stepped into the medicine refining guild in front of him. At the moment when Xiao Yan stepped into the guild, suddenly, a strong and familiar smell of medicine came to Xiao Yan's face. The strong smell called Xiao Yan out of breath. Soon, Xiao Yan frowned and looked into the guild. The first thing that came into view was a huge black medicine tripod in the guild hall. The medicine tripod was extremely tall, reaching the dome and down to the cornerstone. It was like a small mountain peak, standing in the middle of the Herbalist Guild. This medicine tripod is also the pillar of the medicine refining guild. If this medicine tripod falls, the whole medicine refining guild in front of Xiao Yan will be burned. Presumably, this medicine tripod represents the Dantar. Dantar is the gathering place of all herbalists in the whole continent. If the Dantar falls, the circle of herbalists will inevitably be turbulent. Dantar is the pillar in the hearts of all herbalists. Looking at the huge black medicine tripod in front of him, Xiao Yan's heart sighed silently. Immediately, he stopped staying and moved towards the interior of the guild. Walking inside the guild, occasionally someone walks past Xiao Yan. When these people look at Xiao Yan, they can't help but look surprised. In Xiao Yan's eyes, these people who walk past him are all dressed in medicine refiner robes. Among them, the lowest level of medicine refiner has reached the level of 8th-grade medicine refiners. Of course, this 8th-grade medicine refining master in the eyes of ordinary people is just like that in the eyes of Xiao Yan. Walking in the fairly empty guild, Xiao Yan will see some windows displaying various precious medicinal materials at intervals. However, these medicinal materials can be regarded as highly valuable in the eyes of ordinary people. In the eyes of Xiao Yan, they look ordinary and do not attract his interest. It can't be said that these medicinal materials are worthless. However, with the growth of Xiao Yan's strength, Xiao Yan's vision of all kinds of things increases. The so-called cherishing medicinal materials have seen too much in his eyes. The so-called climbing up and looking into the distance is just the tip of the iceberg of the world. Only by constantly climbing up and climbing again can we see more distant places. Although the scenery near us is beautiful, it will eventually be tired of seeing that day, but if we can constantly push aside the clouds, what we see will be a broader and magnificent scene. Although Xiao Yan is still standing in the middle of the mountain, what he can see is a scene that many people can't imagine. Of course, Xiao Yan won't be fascinated by it. The scene along the way has already become a passing cloud in the eyes of others, and what Xiao Yan wants to pursue is the acme that others have never seen. Casually skip the exquisite windows containing medicinal materials. Gradually, more and more people passed by Xiao Yan. At this time, Xiao Yan found that there was no one in the seemingly empty drug refining association, but they didn't gather elsewhere. As the number of herbalists around him gradually increased, Xiao Yan could feel that there was a hot smell in the air, and at the same time, a faint smell of Dan incense also spread. It seems that someone is refining pills. The corners of the mouth smiled lightly. The Herbalist Guild really deserves to be a place where herbalists gather. From the smell of the pill just now, although the refined pill level is not very high, it can be called good. A moment later, when Xiao Yang walked through the crowd around him and came to the front of the crowd with a little difficulty, he found that the place he was in at the moment was a huge alchemy room. No wonder there would be such a warm breath and Dan fragrance. Looking for the place where the smell of buying Dan incense came from just now, what appeared in Xiao Yang's eyes was a golden medicine tripod, and in this medicine tripod at this time, the raging flame was wrapped with a round Dan medicine, and a strong smell of medicine incense was spreading from it, including the smell of medicine that Xiao Yang had noticed earlier. It is from here. Then, when Xiao Yang looked up, the look in his eyes immediately couldn't help being a little stunned. He saw that at the moment, sitting in front of the golden medicine tripod, was a beautiful girl wrapped under a tight red skirt. The girl's fine red hair is flush with her shoulders, her pretty face is smooth and delicate, and tiny drops of sweat are constantly exposed from the girl's forehead. The original pink pretty face is also slightly white at the moment. It is obvious that the girl has spent a lot of energy in order to refine this pill in the medicine tripod. Jopine pill. Before the crowd, Xiao Yang looked at the pill in the medicine tripod in front of the girl, and immediately turned his eyes like a girl. He couldn't help nodding. The girl didn't like G last year, but her medicine refining skills were quite exquisite. I think behind her, there must be an experienced pharmacist as a guide. Tut tut. Miss Xu has improved a lot in refining medicine. Look at this 9 pill should be finished. Yes, who says not? 9-grade medicine refiners under the age of 30 are rare, even if they look at the whole continent and can compare with Miss Xu. Around Xiao Yang, a crowd of onlookers also stared at the red skirt girl in the field. Everyone's eyes showed an exclamation, especially when they looked at the pill to be completed in the medicine tripod. They couldn't help showing their envy. In contrast, although the people present are both medicine refiners, few of them can really refine the 9 pill. How can they be like this young girl in front of us? Her medicine refining skill has reached such a shocking level. Listening to the exclamation of the surrounding population, Xiao Yang knows the girl's surname. The girl seems to be surnamed Xu. From their words, Xiao Yang also knows her name. Her single name is Yao, Xu Yao. Xu Yao. The girl's name was recited in his heart. Then, at the moment Xiao Yang looked up, the red skirt girl in the field finally changed the round pill in the medicine tripod in front of her. Buzzing, buzzing. As a buzzing sound came from the medicine tripod, all the people in the field quickly turned their eyes. They saw that the pill was still being refined by fire in the medicine tripod. At this moment, it sent out a powerful breath, which changed the faces of the people in the field. The pill is finished. At the same time when the startling voice came out from the crowd, the pill began to shake violently in the golden medicine tripod. Then, an extremely powerful energy swept out of the pill. Looking at the power, it seemed to be trying to smash the medicine tripod. How can I allow you to be presumptuous? Take it for me. Seeing this scene, the girl in the red dress suddenly gave a cold hum between her nose, and then her heart moved. A stronger fighting spirit gushed out of the palm of the girl's jade hand, and quickly entered the medicine tripod. 3 times and 5 times divided by 2, that was to take back the pill that was emitting great power. All the actions of the girl looked like flowing clouds and water without any mistakes. As everyone saw, they couldn't help shouting again. However, what was unusual to everyone was that Xiao Yang, who was standing in front of the people at the moment, couldn't help but frown. He didn't expect that the girl would accept the pill at this time. Alas! What a pity! Slightly regretful, Xiao Yang shook his head slightly. Standing in front of the people, Xiao Yang slowly turned around. In the suddenly stunned eyes of the people around him, he wanted to leave here. However, just as Xiao Yang had just turned around, behind him, the red skirt girl who had just held the pill in her hand and had no time to show her glory to the people present suddenly set her eyes on Xiao Yang. What's a pity? Herbalist Guild. In such a big field, the girl with her delicate body wrapped under the red skirt stared at Xiao Yang who had just turned around with apricot eyes. Her eyes looked sharp, and the words spit out between the red lips were full of dissatisfaction. After the words in the girl's mouth came out, other people in the long march also focused their eyes on Xiao Yang who turned around and wanted to leave. Because of the words of the girl in red skirt, Xiao Yang frowned slightly, and the figure who wanted to leave still stood in place. Immediately, Xiao Yang slowly turned around. While looking at the girl, the latter also stared at him. I mean, if you can get pregnant a little longer just now, and if the temperature of the flame can be kept in a balanced state and keep the pill at the same temperature from beginning to end, the quality of this pill can reach Jopine Shendan, not just a Jopine Baodan. Xiao Yang had clearly discovered the latter's criticism during the girl's alchemy. First of all, the girl consumed too much fighting spirit in the process of refining medicinal materials at the beginning, so that the pouring of fighting spirit was intermittent at the end. Although Xiao Yang didn't see the content at the beginning, with her own sophisticated alchemy, Xiao Yang can also imagine it in his heart. Secondly, although the girl's soul power is strong enough, her control of the flame is obviously very different. Maybe she doesn't pay enough attention to it at ordinary times, or maybe the flame is a kind of animal fire he just got. But generally speaking, the girl's control of the flame is not proficient, which affects the quality of this pill. If it is one of these 2 points, perhaps the quality of this pill will not be reduced to this level, but it is precisely because of the girl's negligence that the final quality of the pill that could have reached Jiupin Shendan is actually only Jiupin Baodan. Therefore, Xiao Yanfang will say a pity. Xiao Yang's words fell, and everyone in the field was silent. From time to time, they would look at the girl in red skirt, then look at Xiao Yang, and then look at the latter. At the same time, a little pity appeared in their eyes. When Xiao Yang's words came into the girl's ears, she also made the latter's face turn blue. She naturally knew about these. However, up to now, the pill has been in her hand, and she can't be refined again. Even others dare not refute her. The guy in front of her actually said her mistake without mercy. This embarrassed the girl who always paid attention to face for a time. A pretty white face quickly turned red because of Xiao Yang's words, and her silver teeth clenched. The girl's eyes were at a loss. Under her sleeve robe, a pair of slender jade hands grabbed the corners of her clothes, and the whole person stood beside the medicine tripod too numbly. Seeing the girl's appearance, Xiao Yang didn't care. As soon as he turned around, he wanted to leave while the people behind him retreated from the road. Stop. And at this time, the girl in red dress suddenly raised her eyes, a pair of almond eyes staring at Xiao Yang, who had left in the field with a cold look in her eyes. Feeling the cold eyes from behind, Xiao Yang couldn't help frowning slightly. What he said just now, but he accurately pointed out the mistake for the girl, but he didn't expect the girl to repent and bite the hand that feeds him. You said that the quality of the pill refined by Miss Ben did not meet the required standard, so why did you make such a comment to me? As soon as the girl said this, everyone's eyes suddenly fell on Xiao Yang like a spotlight. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang couldn't help frowning slightly. He turned around again, his eyes narrowed falsely, and looked at the girl in red skirt suspiciously. Seeing Xiao Yang's eyes, the corner of the red skirt girl's mouth slowly outlined a sneer. Immediately, she stared at Xiao Yang with a cold tone. The Herbalist Guild is a place where herbalists can enter. Looking at you, you don't seem to be a herbalist. In that case, why do you comment on my pill and why do you enter the Herbalist Guild? The girl's tone was cold, with a sneer on her face. A pair of apricot eyes looked up and down at Xiao Yang, still looking like an upside-down rake. As soon as the girl said this, the pharmacists in the field were also surprised to sweep Xiao Yang, and then they came back to their senses. Looking at all the people in the field at the moment, Xiao Yang was the only one wearing different clothes from them. This is the Herbalist Guild. Everyone who enters here will first put on the herbalist robes presented by the Herbalist Guild, which is a confirmation of identity and a pass to enter and leave the Herbalist Guild. The robe of a herbalist can not only prove the identity of the herbalist, but also show the rank of the herbalist with the exclusive badge of Dantar, which is a public confirmation of the status of the herbalist. A powerful herbalist can be respected by the strong without revealing his soul power. At the moment, Xiao Yang is the only one present who doesn't wear a medicine refiner's robe. On the premise that he can't prove his identity, this kind of person will usually be expelled by the Medicine Refiners Guild. Of course, there will be exceptions, that is, a strong person with enough strength. If a strong person fighting the Emperor is here, even the girl in red dress, it's the same. Of course, Xiao Yang is not a strong fighter against the Emperor, but only from the aspect of appearance. The people present will not think that a young man in black robes with such a young appearance will be a fighter against the Emperor. There is neither a herbalist's robe as proof of identity nor the strength of fighting the Emperor. In their view, Xiao Yang in front of them is naturally not qualified to stay here. Aware of the strange eyes around him, Xiao Yang shrugged. Since everything was said, the red skirt girl obviously intended to run on him and didn't want to stay here again. It's a big deal to go. Leisurely turned around, Xiao Yangang wanted to raise her feet, but then the girl opened her mouth again. Stop. Did Miss Ben let you go? Xiao Yang frowned slightly. The girl asked a lot. She had given in. What else did she want? His eyes narrowed, and Xiao Yang's face was slightly gloomy, but in order not to provoke right and wrong, Xiao Yang turned back to his body for the third time. Xiao Yang turned around again and again, but it made the hot-tempered young lady sneer more on her pretty face. The former's tolerance again and again was made cowardly by her. At the moment, she saw Xiao Yang turn around again, and the expression on her pretty face was more unruly. It's obviously not a herbalist. He dares to pretend to understand. He talks nonsense here. Have you forgotten where this is? Now, I want you to apologize to me for your self-righteousness. As soon as the girl said this, not only Xiao Yang, but also several 9th-grade herbalists around her, couldn't help but flash a look of dissatisfaction on her face. For Xiao Yang's comments just now, they naturally agreed to admit it in their heart, but because of the special identity of the red skirt girl, it's not easy to speak, but at the moment, the girl's behavior is obviously too much. Xiao Yang's low face also looked gloomy at the moment, but he didn't expect to meet this unruly and willful woman. If it wasn't for the fire plume flower, he didn't want to expose his identity. According to Xiao Yang's temperament, I'm afraid he would have slapped the woman in the face. Hum. The voice was cold and put down a cold hum. Xiao Yang turned his body and was too lazy to continue to pay attention to the rude girl. He wanted to leave when his steps moved. Bastard. What are you? You dare to ignore Miss Ben's words. Come and catch him. Since you won't apologize, Miss Ben will do it herself to teach you to bow your head and admit your mistake. Seeing that Xiao Yang ignored her words, she turned and left. The girl's pretty face immediately showed a warm and angry look. At the moment when the cold and charming cry fell, several dark shadows suddenly burst out from the dark place of the medicine refining room, like a sharp arrow. In an instant, they passed through the crowd. Before the people around Xiao Yang reacted, came to Xiao Yang. At the moment when the dark shadow appeared in front of Xiao Yang, a sharp blade with cold light came out of the void, stabbing Xiao Yang's throat quickly with an incomparably fierce momentum. In the twinkling of an eye, those sharp blades had come to Xiao Yang's throat, and it was not until this moment that other people in the field returned to their senses. When they saw the 4 dark shadows around Xiao Yang, everyone's face could not help showing a touch of horror. All the people present are medicine refiners. They usually eat with the power of their souls. However, from the location where these 4 people appear, it is obvious that they have long been hidden in the medicine refining room. However, none of these people have ever found it, which just proves how powerful these 4 people are. Alas! This boy is really a newborn calf. He is not afraid of tigers. Anyone dares to provoke. The name of Miss Xu is well known in Shenzhen. Who do you provoke? You have to provoke her. Alas, you are really looking for a dead end. Seeing the sharp blades in the hands of the 4 shadows about to be inserted into Xiao Yang's throat, a sigh of pity came out of the crowd. Then, in the next moment, the sharp blades in the hands of the 4 shadows stabbed into Xiao Yang's throat together. However, then, in the eyes of the 4 dark shadows, there was a sudden surge of horror. When the sharp blades fell in their hands, they didn't bring a trace of blood. When they looked up, they clearly saw that at the moment, Xiao Yang, who was being hit by them, gradually became empty. This is a remnant. Seeing this scene, the pupils in the eyes of the 4 dark shadows couldn't help shrinking suddenly. Then the next moment, when their bodies suddenly turned in the air, they saw that Xiao Yang let them walk slowly towards the coming road. Stay. Among the 4 people, Chi gave a low cry. At the same time, his body shot forward again. The sharp blades in his hands pointed to the key points of Xiao Yang's whole body. Once he hit, even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. The ruthlessness of these 4 people is shameful. Moreover, they are still 4-1. It is not difficult to imagine what kind of malicious people their master will be. This time, Xiao Yang also obviously noticed the 4 people's actions. Immediately, his already gloomy face was even lower in an instant. He didn't want to cause trouble, but the tree wanted to be quiet and the wind continued. The red skirt woman on the stage made trouble again and again. At the moment, the people she sent would kill him with a move. This is really unbearable. Get out. When the 4 people were about to come behind Xiao Yang suddenly spit out an overbearing and fierce word. At the same time, a powerful and unparalleled terrorist soul force swept out of Xiao Yang's body in a moment. Just one face-to-face, he blew the 4 people behind him out in an instant. Pooh! While the 4 bodies fell heavily to the ground, everyone couldn't help spewing out a mouthful of blood. In a twinkling, the breath of the 4 people was listless. Until this time, all the pharmacists in the field recovered from the shock just now. A deep look of horror appeared on everyone's face. They could not imagine that the young black-robed youth in front of them would be so strong, especially after they felt the terrible soul power gushing out of the latter's body. The horror in my heart can't be expressed in words. At this moment, even the red skirt girl standing next to the medicine tripod and holding the pill also looked very frightened on her pretty face. The whole body was frozen in place and stared at the void in front of her. At this time, Xiao Yan, who didn't intend to do it, suddenly started at this moment. The figure covered in black robes was like a flash of lightning. In the twinkling of an eye, he appeared in front of the 4 people lying on the ground. At the same time, he didn't stop at all, and hit one person's chest heavily. Bang! One punch fell, and with another mouthful of red blood gushing out uncontrollably, the figure hit by Xiao Yang's punch instantly fell into serious injury and lost all combat power. The appearance of this scene surprised the other 3 people, and they tried their best to struggle again. However, their struggle turned out to resist, but the final result was Xiao Yang's merciless fist. Bang bang! With the 3 fists falling one after another, the mood in the hearts of the people present at the moment has reached an uncontrollable level. Finally, Xiao Yang came to the red skirt girl after making the 4 people completely lose their combat power. Xiao Yang, who suddenly appeared in front of her, scared the girl back to her senses. Her delicate body trembled violently under the emotion of fear. Her red lips were slightly open, but she couldn't make any sound. She could only watch Xiao Yang slowly raise her arms in front of her, and then, in the frightened eyes behind her, a heavy slap fell on the girl's white face. Pa! At this moment, there was a strange silence in the field. Everyone stared at Xiao Yang in the field. This slap seemed particularly clear and loud in the medicine refining room at the moment. In the spacious medicine refining room, people scattered and stood separately. At this moment, it seemed silent. Everyone's faces were full of horror and stunned, showing the shock in their hearts. A pair of eyes stared at the man in black at the moment. They could not imagine that the ordinary-looking black man in front of them would have such strong strength. The 4 dark shadows that they did not notice could not go out for a round in the hands of the young man in black. Together, the 4 people were still like furnishings, completely crushed by the powerful power of the latter. This powerful power can really be called such a terror. What shocked them most was that the man in black dared to shoot the girl in red dress. This guy, is he crazy? He dares to beat Miss Shu. The silence in the field lasted for a long time. Finally, the sound was full of incredible words, and finally spit out one after another from the mouth of a group of pharmacists in the field. This was the most shocking place for them. No matter how they thought, there were people in Shenzhen who dared to fight this aunt and beat her most arrogant face. You. And until this time, the girl who gradually recovered from the discussion of the people quickly looked at the black-robed youth in front of her. A pair of tearful apricot eyes also quickly showed a color of panic, and at the same time, it was also full of an unbelievable look. Shu Yaro's slender jade hand trembled and covered half of her rapidly swollen cheek. Therefore, the blood at the corners of her mouth was stained on the girl's wrist, and the blood flowed, which made the girl look more pitiful. It was an illusion that she couldn't help holding it in her arms. Seeing the girl's poor appearance, Xiao Yang's face was indifferent. In a pair of painted black eyes, he looked a little cold. At a young age, you are so vicious, you don't repent of your mistakes, and you still want to bite the hand that feeds you. Why, you think you're a 9-level herbalist, so you're great. What can you be on the mainland with your 9-level herbalist? But you dare to talk arrogantly and confuse right and wrong here. You deserve to be a herbalist. Xiao Yang's words were sharp. Every time he said a word, he would take half a step forward and push the girl back in panic. A pretty face became pale. Finally, his legs became soft, and then he sat down on the ground. The whole pretty face became very white. You. The girl's face was full of fear. The young man in black robe in front of her was the most terrible person she had ever seen since she was young. Before she met Xiao Yang, everyone was in awe of her. Even some people who were stronger than her would show a humble smile on their faces. Just like these people present at this moment, when everyone looked at her before Xiao Yang started, her eyes are full of deference. She is like the most fragrant flower among thousands of flowers. She is highly sought after and surrounded by stars and the moon, as if she was talking about her. But now, when the girl looks away again, all the eyes that should have been around her have shifted to Xiao Yang. Originally, she wanted to place her hopes on these people and expect them to do it for herself. Unfortunately, the stamens in the greenhouse can see the sunshine outside through the glass, but when this thin layer of glass was broken, she could really feel the cold wind under the sun. He slapped him and taught him a lesson. Xiao Yang's anger gradually subsided. Even if he didn't bother to pay attention to the girl, he wanted to leave as soon as he turned around. But at the moment when Xiao Yang just turned around, behind him, a powerful energy training was like lightning. In an instant, it passed through the void. At the moment when Xiao Yang just turned around, the sharp energy appeared in front of Xiao Yang, and the target pointed directly at the center of Xiao Yang's eyebrows. Buzz! But then the next moment, when the energy competition saw that it was about to hit the center of Xiao Yang's eyebrows, the expression on Xiao Yang's face suddenly became cold. At the same time, a magnificent soul force poured out rapidly from Xiao Yang's eyebrows, and the energy competition that shot into his eyebrows will be stopped in the future. After finishing these, Xiao Yang slowly raised his eyes with a cold face and looked at the place where the opposite crowd moved away. At this moment, there was a handsome young man standing there. At the moment, the latter also stared at Xiao Yang with a pair of cold eyes. The look on a handsome face was very gloomy. The killing intention of extreme cold was particularly obvious in the depths of a pair of brown pupils. When the young man appeared, the people in the field also looked at the latter. Then, a look of fear appeared in the eyes of the people present. Obviously, in the eyes of these people, the young man was also an extremely dangerous guy. Seeing that the black-robed man in front of him actually blocked his blow, the young man couldn't help but coagulate slightly in his eyes. In such an emergency just now, the black-robed man was able to respond in time, but with this, it is enough to prove that the other party is not an ordinary generation. Ben also wanted to brag in front of the girl, or to make a good start for his next plan, but for now, it's a little troublesome. A moment later, the young man standing in front of the crowd raised his eyes again and looked at Xiao Yang opposite. "I don't know who you are. Don't you know that this is my Shen Cheng?" The voice of slightly feminine words slowly spit out from the young man's mouth. The man's hands are slowly tied behind him. Under the cover of his sleeve robe, the surging fighting spirit condenses secretly in the palm of his hand. Since it's Shen Cheng, it proves that I'm not in the wrong place. Xiao Yang's face remained unchanged. The cold chill in a pair of dark pupils slowly gathered, and the words spit out in his mouth seemed dull and abnormal. "Since you know this is Shen Cheng and dare to hurt my Lin family, Your Excellency looks down on my Lin family too much." At the moment when Xiao Yang's voice fell, the young man opposite shouted angrily. At the same time, his feet stepped heavily on the ground, and the powerful fighting spirit under the soles of his feet burst out in time. Almost for a moment, the young man's body turned into a flash of light, and came to Xiao Yang's face in an instant. Then, the palm behind him suddenly came in front of him. The huge fighting energy in the palm gathered rapidly and burst into dazzling light at the same time. The palm is facing Xiao Yang's head and is ready to strike. It seems that he intends to kill the latter with a surprise attack. These means are not cruel. However, just like this, on Xiao Yang's face at the moment, his expression is still calm and can't afford waves. When the young man's palm was about to fall on Xiao Yang's head, Xiao Yang suddenly looked up. At the same time, he opened his mouth, paused for time, and a soul-shaking cry came out of Xiao Yang's mouth. The earth-shaking roar came out under the deliberate package of soul power, and the young man in front of him received it all without any chance to avoid. At that time, his whole soul was suddenly shocked, and a violent sense of tearing pain poured out madly from the depths of the man's soul, causing the muscles on his face to twist and his face to turn red. The whole person is like turning into a statue and solidifying in the air. "Get out!" With a low cry, the young man's body immediately flew back uncontrollably. Finally, he was caught by several old people who showed their body from the void from the back. Only then could he stabilize his body. However, looking at his face, he had become very white. The young man's throat was sweet, and the look on his face quickly became frightened. Unexpectedly, with his 5-star and half-emperor's strength, he couldn't get out of the black-robed man's hand for a round. Immediately, the young man realized that the young black-robed young man in front of him was not a good thing. "Brother Ran, help me." At this time, behind Xiao Yang, the girl in red skirt suddenly screamed and climbed up, hysterically asking for help to the young man whose face was white at the moment. The appearance of the latter seemed to make the girl who was about to fall into the mire grasp a life-saving straw at the critical moment, but, while the girl was crying recklessly, she didn't notice the disgust in the eyes of the young man opposite. If the girl's identity was not very, he wouldn't bother to take care of the latter's life and death. But at present, the young man in black is obviously not a good stubble. Moreover, he hurt the girl in red skirt. "I'm afraid it's impossible to be good. Damn it. This bitch really doesn't know how to live or die. Why didn't she die in his hands?" He scolded with hatred in his heart, but the young man also knew that before his plan was completed, even if the young girl was going to die, she must not die in Shen Cheng. That is to say, now she has to save the girl's life no matter how. "Teacher Quan, I'm afraid I can only ask you for this. Taking a deep breath, the young man held back the sharp pain from his body and said in a low voice. Hearing the man's words, an old man in brocade behind him also nodded. Immediately, a pair of turbid old eyes lifted slightly, and his fierce eyes looked straight at Xiao Yang opposite. Judging from the action of the black-robed man just now, the other party will obviously be a herbalist, and his soul power is definitely above the first-class herbalist, because his young master is a first-class herbalist. In that case, I'm afraid the black-robed young man in front of him is the worst second-class herbalist. At the thought of this, the look in the old man's eyes can't help but coagulate slightly. I'm afraid that such a young second-class herbalist is an extremely rare existence in the Herbalist Alliance. Is it really from the Alliance of Herbalists? The old man couldn't help but wonder in his heart. If the man in black is really from the Alliance of Herbalists, I'm afraid even his Lin family can't recruit people easily. My husband Lin Quan is the deacon of the Lin family in Shenzhen. What happened just now is that my young master acted recklessly. I hope you can forgive me. In the audience, everyone thought that the old man would directly fight, but the old man threw a heavy fist at Xiao Yang and apologized to Xiao Yang for what happened just now. The appearance of this scene was beyond everyone's expectation. Even Xiao Yang was also surprised. Unexpectedly, the old man was quite rational. Otherwise, he might have to do it again. It doesn't matter. I'm just afraid of your young master. Xiao Yang's face was plain. His dark eyes stared at the young master of the Lin family who was pale at the moment. From before to now, the other party had been mentioning the name of the Lin family. It seems that the Lin family is not ordinary in Shenzhen. Ha ha, I misunderstood. I saw these guys knocked down just now. I thought something had happened to younger Marshall's sister. In a hurry, I laid a heavy hand on Sir. But now that everyone is safe, I can rest assured. Just as Xiao Yang's voice fell, the old man named Lin Quan also winked at the young man behind him. When the latter saw this, he forced to support his body and smiled at Xiao Yang. Brother Lin Ran, he hit me. How did you? Younger Marshall's sister, you girl, Shifu doesn't restrict you very much and causes trouble all day. Today's matter is regarded as a lesson. Don't come back soon. Before Shu Yaro's words fell, the young man called Lin Ran looked at the latter for a moment. While interrupting the latter's words, the look in his eyes also seemed a little fierce. Seeing this, Shu Yaro was suddenly surprised on her pretty white face. Even her whole body couldn't help shaking. Then she ran to Lin Ran with trembling heart. This time, Xiao Yang didn't mean to do it again. Now that the other party has apologized to him, it can be regarded as a step for both sides. If he continues to fight, I'm afraid the matter will not be so easy to solve. I'm Xiaolin Ran, the young master of the Lin family in Shenzhen. I don't know, sir. When Lin Ran came forward, he arched his hand at Xiao Yang with a smile on his face, as if he had forgotten what had happened just now. The whole person became relaxed. Just nobody. There's nothing to say. Xiao Yang's face is indifferent. He won't give the slightest favor to such a guy who turns his face faster than turning a book. Hearing the speech, the latter couldn't help but be slightly stunned. He looked at the old man on one side, and a look of resentment flashed in his eyes. In that case, I'll leave first. I wish you a pleasant trip, Lin Rampi said with a smile. The last sentence in his mouth sounded rather penetrating. Immediately, Lin Ran was Shu Yaro with a pretty face and panic. He quickly left here, leaving only Xiao Yang and the pharmacists present, still standing in place. After a long time, when the group left, Xiao Yang took back his eyes. At the same time, his voice was flat again, saying, "Don't you plan to come out and meet after watching the play for so long? This video will end here."